I'm joined today by Murry Toms, who is Campaigns Director at Crowdfunder and also Associate Director at Cheltenham Town Football Club. Murry, how are you?
Hi Aaron, yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. How's things your side then?
Not bad. It's busy. It's busy. It's challenging. It's interesting. It's a very interesting time.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Well, we're here to talk about the Crowdfunder and what they are, what they do. Obviously, times are quite difficult financially for clubs at the moment. So can you just give me a little overview about what Crowdfunder are and what you do?
Sure. Well, so the core team behind Crowdfunder has a TV background. We produced some really big kind of mass engagement campaigns around 10 years ago, which sort of attracted the support of millions of people. But what we quickly realised was that those millions of people, they wanted to do good things in their communities, but the one thing that was stopping them doing that was money. So we quickly built a platform to enable them to rally behind the things that matter to them. Fast forward 10 years, we've raised around about £100 million now for communities that rally around all sorts of different things. But this year in particular has been difficult for a lot of people, but football clubs in particular. On the side, if you like, I'm an associate director at Cheltenham Town, as you mentioned, and I've managed to sort of work with maybe a foot in both camps this year to try and do something about the situation, and that's led me to this conversation.
Yeah. So let's talk about, obviously, since March, this year has been quite unique. It's thrown up so many challenges for football. Since March, we've had pretty much a shutdown of football. We've got a slow return now, but clubs have been dealt a blow basically in the last couple of weeks, where fans haven't been allowed to return to the stadium environment, which is really putting pressure on their finances. Can you just give me an idea of how you've helped during this time?
Yeah. So what we quickly did as a business back in March was create a campaign called Pay It Forward. That was an immediate response to the overnight collapse in the hospitality trade. But that was very quickly adopted by sports clubs and football clubs in particular, who were suffering because of the loss of ticketing revenue in particular, and the challenges in the commercial departments of most clubs that sort of came with the lack of supporters. We began having conversations with clubs early on about creating campaigns, because what Crowdfunder is, it's a platform that enables organisations and groups to give back in order to sort of garner support. So Pay It Forward enabled football clubs to pre-sell ticketing, to pre-sell their commercial real estate, to sell money can't buy experiences that only football clubs can produce, better access to players and management and the board and chairman, and pulled together that clubs were creating campaigns that were enabling them to sort of bridge that shortfall in revenue that existed back then.
Yeah. And what kind of successes have you had so far? Have you got any examples of clubs that you've worked with?
Yeah, so to date we've worked directly with about a third of clubs from the EFL, which has been interesting and probably worrying too, that we've had so many conversations and so many projects from the Football League. We've also worked with many kind of semi-professional clubs. We've had conversations and working relationships with the leagues, so with the National League, the Southern League, Northern League, the Isthmian League, and plenty. What clubs were also doing back then was that they were building in community elements into their projects, where they gave back to the local area. So there was a recognition of support for the NHS and key workers. Clubs like Plymouth Argyle gave free tickets away to key workers in return for every £100 that was pledged by supporters. We saw at Notts County, for example, I think they donated 10% of the proceeds of their campaign to Age UK, which is a charity that resonates with their fan base. And at my club, Cheltenham Town, we pledged our support to our season-long charity partner, which was the Holly Gazzard Trust. They work to tackle domestic abuse, and all three charities are three of many examples of charities that are struggling just as much as football clubs and anyone else right now. And by showing their support for things that people cared about in their community, they were able to encourage support for their campaigns.
Yeah, and do you think that's one of the benefits that football has within the community, that they're able to draw on their support and the fact that these people are really are supportive of the club and help within the community during this time?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we've seen hundreds of examples of that, big and small, where football clubs have kind of played a leading role in the response to what's going on, to the lockdown. We've seen at the biggest end of that, we've worked directly with Wigan to produce their campaign that's raised across two fundraisers now to raise almost £1 million to secure community ownership. They had the likes of Lisa Nandy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, and Andy Burnham, who's in the news quite a lot just today. They sort of threw their weight behind a huge campaign up there, which really kind of underlined the importance of the organisation within the community. And you know, that's been a really successful piece of work, and with a bit of luck, they'll be able to sort of reach their goal in the next few weeks and months. At the other ends, you know, there's a huge sort of number of examples that have raised a lot of money. The likes of Worthing, we've seen Bognor Regis Town, Frome Town, FC United and Manchester raise a significant amount of money for various community projects and facility projects, and all of which is sort of made possible by sort of engaging the community. Free Crowdfunder, and they're validating those ideas. So clubs are able to validate their kind of role within the communities by offering rewards through the platform. The supporters are reacting to that, and they're sort of making these ideas possible.
Yeah, and do you think that's key to all of this? It's not like clubs are going cap in hand to the fans asking for handouts. They're engaging with them, and they're looking for ways in which they can actively encourage fundraising, but also have that community aspect to it. How do you work with clubs around that? How are you set up to do that?
So between myself and a colleague, Scott, who is who's on the board at Frome Town and also at the Dorset FA, we spend a lot of time speaking directly to clubs to identify what it is exactly they're trying to do. Obviously, there's a common theme. They obviously need to raise money, but there's also they need to create campaigns that are going to engage their fan base, and they sort of obviously vary from club to club. So we need to sort of identify what's going to resonate with their fan bases. So it's a matter of bringing a little bit of crowdfunder know-how and magic, if you like, to the campaign, and then moulding it around those individual communities, and try and create something that's really going to that's going to achieve a lot of success.
Yeah, and is that key, that experience that you have and your colleagues have within football clubs? You understand the pressures that clubs are under and the challenges that they face. Is that one of the key strengths of Crowdfunder?
Yeah, I think absolutely it is. I mean, it's been a really challenging year for Cheltenham Town, who I'm involved with, and you know, sort of almost on a daily basis, we're trying to work out what the next move is. And I think that understanding of the pressures and how clubs are trying to respond to the situation, combined with perhaps a huge amount of experience in the crowdfunding world and the campaigning world, all of those things come together to sort of form a little bit of a sweet spot, I think, and that's where I think we're best placed to be supporting football clubs and sport clubs right now.
there's been a lot of talk in the press and across football about the way football is financed. Obviously, Project Big Picture kind of did put a lot of focus on football and the way it's structured and the way finance flows. Do you think crowdfunding, the way you've been doing with the clubs now, is going to help ease the financial burden on these clubs now until we can get together and a resolution has been formed?
Yeah, it can definitely ease the burden. I think what we don't pretend that creating crowdfunding campaigns is going to solve anything at the moment, but we definitely think that it's a step in the right direction. What we have at Crowdfunder is a unique funding model where we bring together private and public sector money through what we call extra funding. So we have a pot of around £10 million of extra funding for projects, depending on what they do and where. So we have relationships with 45 local authorities, quite a few big brands and banks, and their aim is to support projects. So what we believe is that the crowd come together to validate good ideas through crowdfunding. I think the validation, that's a really important word. So those ideas are validated by the supporters of those football clubs. But in order to make those ideas viable, we believe that we need to create partnerships with big brands and maybe like the government and the Premier League to unlock extra money. So, for example, at the moment, we've just distributed £1 million worth of money into grassroots sports through Sport England, who we work with. And today we've just announced another £1.5 million of extra funding that we're able to put into projects. So what that's really effectively doing is encouraging communities at a grassroots level to work up to come together around their clubs to raise money in the first instance from the crowd, and then they're able to unlock significant grants, £5,000 to £10,000 at a time from Sport England. And what that's doing is creating behavioural change. Instead of grant form filling out, it's making a change at that level, into changing the mindset. About how people think about funding things. So they're working together to do that. So it's creating it's a step in the right direction of a sustainable future. Those organisations are also developing better digital skills from working with us and our coaches, and a better understanding of how these platforms work and benefit them. And it's opening up new audiences too. So beyond the usual 45 people who go and watch a game, it's opening up new businesses, new business relationships, new fan relationships, and it's creating meaningful fan engagement, because when these supporters are not just emotionally invested in what a club is doing, but when it's financially invested, it's a really powerful bond you begin to create between supporters and club. Unfortunately, with the Sport England money, it's not available for what they call it's only available, for not-for-profit organisations, and unfortunately there's no money available for football. So what we want to do is call on the Premier League, the government, and big brands. There's an opportunity for everybody to come and sort of be part of this powerful story, because the sort of brilliant byproduct of all of this work are the stories. The stories are just they're very newsworthy, and there's a lot. The power of what's going on is there's an opportunity for somebody to come in and be part of that.
Yeah, and that's obviously going to be key going forward. And like you mentioned, there's the power. The fans are emotionally invested in football, but also their community. They want to see things get better for the wider community. Finally, how do people get in touch with Crowdfunder, and how do they find out more?
Well, people can have a look at our website, crowdfunder.co.uk/football. Will give you you can see all of the stories and projects that happened. You can see them there. You can contact us by email, football@crowdfunder.co.uk. And I guess I'm on Twitter @Murry Toms without an A. That's how you get in touch with us.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, Murry, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we will leave it there.
Thank you, Aaron.
Not a problem.